You know, sometimes when I'm alone in the middle of the night in my room, I lean back down on my bed and take a long journey of deep thinking. Thinking about life, politics, love, family, hobbies, history, anything, really. However, one of the things that intrigues me the most is just how far the mind of a human is ready to go, and how many barriers and limits it will cross. Think about it. Science and discoveries are all about going above and beyond, trying to break the barriers and limits that were set in the past. Before, humans were barely walking until someone actually thought and decided to go ahead and create a model of an aircraft to conquer the skies and be the first man to fly. Years later, we now have airplanes. However, this wasn't enough for humans. We always strive for what is next, and once we achieve it, we search for the next best thing. That's just how humans function. Now, you might be wondering why I suddenly became a philosopher in this long introduction that is taking us absolutely nowhere. Well, you're kind of right. This intro has nothing to do with the video. However, the idea of it is what matters, especially when it comes to this manga. Oh boy. This freaking manga, man. I see some really fucked up shit and had my share with messed up manga, but this one just takes the cake, man. And not in a good way at all. Let's just set up a few ground rules before we dive into this mad, insane, messed up excuse of a manga. Rule number 1. Do not, and I repeat, this is not a test. Do not read this manga. Rule number 2. If you are reading this manga or have read this manga, delete your history. Bleach your eyes, and if you are one of those who enjoy this kind of stuff, I gotta say, I am sorry for you. I truly am. Rule number 3. This manga is the equivalent of Game of Thrones, so do not love or enjoy any character you meet because they will die gruesomely and graphically. With that out of the way, and for those who still have no idea what manga I am talking about, I salute your innocence. And I hope this video doesn't taint it either. This manga is called Deadtube. The plot is somewhat straightforward and simple to say the least. Deadtube functions like the usual YouTube does, where people upload videos in contests, and the more views you get, the more caching you receive. Let's be honest, who doesn't love some fresh out of the printer dollars? The kicker here is that Deadtube allows any type of content, from DIYs all the way to mass murder and gang activities. As long as you keep those views coming and the money rolling, all is good. Right? This takes us back to what I mentioned earlier, about just how far is someone ready to go to achieve his goals and what lines they are prepared to cross to make their vision come true. The main character of this manga is your usual run-of-the-mill loser, a participant in the film club that has only one interest in life that brings him joy while doing it. Filming all day long, that's kind of it really. However, his whole life takes a 180 after meeting the young, smart, and beautiful Mashiro Mai, with her weird request of him to film her for 3 days non-stop. Even film her relieving herself in the bathroom. He wasn't allowed to stop filming no matter what it was. Even when she slept, he was still not allowed to sleep himself since he had to keep filming her and keep his hand steady, which is something he had no issues with. Until the last day, that is, after she met up with her boyfriend and started making out with him in front of Machia. They even ended up going to a hotel to do the deed, and just when they got undressed, Mashiro Mai pulled out a huge, thick stick and began to beat him up with it, smashing in his skull, splattering blood all over the room, and all over Machia. The scene is quite graphic, you guys, so obviously I'm unable to show you how that scene went. But one thing is for sure, it was ugly as hell. And wrong on so many levels, especially when it came to the fact that Machia was actually turned on by it. Like what? What the hell is going on in his messed up mind? Why would someone dying such a gruesome death do that to him? This incident wasn't the last one either. It was more like an introduction to an even more fucked up world lying right under their noses, waiting for them to discover it and learn about its existence. Once she was done and the filming of that gruesome murder was over, she explained that it was all part of her video to upload on Deadtube to gain views. After that day, she met him at school and handed him a paper bag with 5 million yen in it as his share for filming the video that got her the highest views in the rankings. One thing led to another, and he found himself dragged into this world they call Deadtube, and are forced to participate in it and film such gruesome scenes that will make your stomach turn. Like, seriously, guys. The level of profanity and graphic scenes in this manga, whether it was the violence or the other activities it takes, well, it takes it to a whole new level. And I know some sick closet psycho out there is reading through this messed up manga and doing some right arm extensive exercises, but like, really, this manga is on a whole different level. Even sadists would count some of the actions in this manga as crossing a line. With every passing chapter, the reader can almost feel that the creator of this manga is challenging himself. Like, just how far can he go? How far can his imagination run wild? And just how many lines is he going to cross doing it? Of course, in manga form, it is much easier to illustrate such graphic material than in an anime being televised or even streamed, and some might argue that there is a lot of gore in movies and shows. I mean, absolutely, there are tons of movies and shows out there that are just graphic. However, this mix of graphic violence, the R word which shall not be named, and her close cousin, the S word, this manga is in no way ever, and I repeat, ever going to have an adaptation, unless it was watered way down in all its aspects. This manga is one of those mangas that you read once in your lifetime and either bleach your eyes or strive to create a time machine just to undo the mistake of watching it. Yes, I am looking at you, Metamorphosis and Euphoria. Deadtube is the best of both worlds when it comes to those two that I just mentioned. Machia, who starts off as just an innocent nobody who loves to film, ends up becoming the orchestrator of some of the most gruesome, vile deaths to bless the Deadtube stream ever. And just when you think that some characters look and act innocent, boom, they turn out to be the worst of them all, and the most messed up sacks of pieces of shit you have ever seen. The plot of the manga is really nice and speaks volumes of the daily lives we live when it comes to just how far a human is ready to go when it comes to survival. His survival. However, the story overall is weak, cliched, and somewhat starts to get boring after a few chapters, since it's the same thing happening over and over and over again. Every chapter is just trying to one-up the one before it by any means possible. It just reaches a point where the story just gets lost in the midst of all the killing, and the R's and the S's. And even though Mashiro later on receives some character development in a past sad story explaining a bit about her, but in my opinion, this was just not enough, and I frankly lost interest and started to get disgusted by the ever-repeating themes over and over again, and the only difference being is just how extreme and how it was going to one-up the previous situation. Machia as a character makes no sense whatsoever and is bland and boring. Even the setting of the manga is a stereotypical high school, makes you wonder sometimes if these insane stuff actually do happen in high schools around the world. However, that's not our case of discussion for today. Art-wise, the manga is a masterpiece of graphic violence and madness in the eyes of the characters and their expressions. Their unique stylized clothing and looks, it was all perfect, and would have been if the story of Deadtube was half as good as its frickin' art style. The plot had a lot of potential to it, however, the execution, in my own opinion, was poor, extreme, and in some cases completely uncalled for. The characters had absolutely no depth, and what you will mostly feel towards the character is, when the hell is that piece of shit going to die? It's a reoccurring feeling with many of the characters throughout the show, and it just proves how annoying and undeveloped some of the characters are. Overall, after reading about 40 chapters of this manga, I can say with utmost trust that what kept me going was the intrigue to know what was next. However, this intrigue died out quickly as it came to be. Intrigue alone isn't enough to keep the reader attached to the material, and Deadtube definitely failed that test. As I mentioned before, some might enjoy this manga, and that is totally fine. Good for you. However, for me personally, it became repetitive, boring, unnecessarily graphic, and in some cases, outright bland. I believe you already know what my overall consensus is when it comes to this manga, and obviously I do not recommend it to anyone. You will either become as deranged as they are in the manga, or you will get bored and drop it after 20 or so chapters max. And with that all being said and done, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this review of Deadtube, and remember this was my personal opinion about the manga. It doesn't mean it's the right one or the wrong one, it's just an opinion. It didn't click for me, that's all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your personal experience with this manga if you have read it before. If not, what was your reaction to hearing about it? And I hope that you all have a good weekend. And as for now, I'll catch you later. See you in the next one.